All right, thank you guys, appreciate it. Welcome to the 2023 TWC Workforce Forum. You guys are in the session Workforce Case Management System Twist Replacement. My name is Valerie Robertson. I will serve as your moderator. I'll be monitoring the room and handling any issues that may arise. Forum materials are available on the TWC website. Please silence all electronic devices, and please, I know you guys are busy people, but if you need to take a phone call, please do it in the hallway. If time permits, we will have a question and answer period, and I'll bring the microphone to you guys so we can make sure it's recorded. Also, if we don't have enough time to answer the questions, then you may request presenters' contact information at the end of the session. You guys will receive an electronic survey after the event. Please complete it, and we appreciate that. CEUs, if you guys are collecting those, you can, as soon as the session is over, you can go to Phoenix South, that table, and they can stamp that for you guys. So with that being said, I want to introduce, I just went blank. I'm so sorry, sir.
I'll take care of my own introduction then.
Richard.
Thank you, Valerie.
I'm so sorry. Richard Woessner.
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to introduce our panel. And to my left, Debbie Carlson, Workforce Project Manager for Case Management. To my right is Linda Hernandez. She's Senior QA Specialist from North Central. To her right is Sandy Landers, Project Manager, Workforce Case Management. And I am Richard Woessner, I'm Director of Workforce Automation and Technical Support. We also have asked some of our subject matter experts to be present at today's session to make sure that we give you full and accurate information, so don't be surprised if we ask some of our SMEs over here to my right to correct us or to stand up and provide additional information, especially during the Q&A session that we hope to have at the end of this presentation. But to begin with, we have a video that our vendor, Geographic Solutions, provided to us and that we presented at last year's annual conference. But it does introduce the workforce case management, and not everyone here would have been able to make it to the conference, so this is an opportunity for you to see this video. It's about 4 to 5 minutes long. All right?
Know by now, Work in Texas provides labor exchange for residents of the Lone Star State. Something you may not know is that Work in Texas is kicking off 2024 with brand new case management functionality. We invite you to join us as we explore some highly anticipated case management tools. We start with registering individuals into the system's new employment plan. Once the individual's information is gathered, the system moves to determine eligibility, allowing staff to track and manage participants of WIOA, SNAP, Choices, Trade, and agency-defined programs. WIOA Case Management allows Texas staff to easily provide resources and services to adult, youth, dislocated, and incumbent workers. First up on the application is the eligibility summary, which gives simple yes-no answers to eligibility. The activities, enrollments, and services reference chart details funding streams, follow-up activities, projected and actual start and end dates. Choices, Texas's TANF program, will be included with the case management launch to manage all assistance available under welfare transition, whether that be child care services, participation in classes, establishing goals and objectives, formulating an employment plan, or recording employment placement. Similar to Choices, the new SNAP module allows for the collection and management of information for partner programs, which includes household member information and participation, benefits received, and assessments to identify barriers. The system also allows case managers to track attendance, manage transportation reimbursement, as well as enter employment details and earn credentials. Case managers can also track sanctions, handle case transfers, and identify exit outcomes for mandated SNAP participants. The Trade Case Management ribbon gives staff one-click access to the petition number, program eligibility, as well as benefit deadlines associated with the applicant. Quick reference charts show activity and benefit payments, including counts associated with each line item. Staff can also reference partner programs, waiver and reviews, training programs applied for, as well as benchmarks and milestones achieved. Credentials earned and employment gained is also recorded as an activity on the individual's path to reemployment. As an added bonus, numerous areas within the system allow users to upload, scan, link to, manage, and view documents associated with an individual. This will allow Texas to fully transition to a paperless operation. Once imported, documents can be associated to programs and applications. They can be marked as verification items and tagged by indexed keywords. Probably the most beneficial feature, tracking of all these programs is now handled in a centralized and efficient manner, eliminating the need to toggle between systems, promoting transparency across program lines and funding streams. Texas Workforce Case Management System also collects all necessary data points in order for the state to build Pearl federal reports. And finally, agency-defined programs can be used for TWC-awarded grants and third-party grants received by boards. Together, the new Workforce Case Management System will allow staff to capture, manage, and serve participants of federal, state, and local programs. Get ready, Texas. We are excited for you to experience these tools and more in early 2024.
And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Debbie Carlson.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm so happy to see a full house here. This is amazing. But I also know that the two worst places to be on an agenda are the first session after lunch, and here we are. But the absolute worst place to be is the last session of the day, because you're standing between a room full of people and happy hour. So we're thankful we're not there. But I want to start out and just give you a little bit of foundation on this system. Some of us have been working on this for a couple of years now, and a lot of the folks in this room have been working on it just as long. Now, back in March, Linda and I did a presentation at Quan, and I think there were 444 people that were in virtual attendance. Now, we did a Q&A session. We didn't have all the answers, but we did make a commitment that when we were here in May, we would come back and we would bring those answers back. And so that's what we're going to do. Now, I think Valerie mentioned earlier that we'll do another Q&A session at the end of this. And so same thing. I'm not going to promise you that we're going to have all of the answers, but we will commit to you that those things that we can't answer, we'll get the answers, and we will get the answers back to you. It just may not be today. Now, when we started this project, we had some guiding principles. And one of those things, if anybody thinks that our intention was to build Twist 2.0, no, that's not at all what we intended. Our plan was to buy an off-the-shelf system. We learned from Work in Texas project not to do too much customization. Those of you that have worked with it for the last, 3+ years now, understand that some of the major hiccups that we had with that were problems of our own making. We did not use the system's progressive informed registration. We insisted that they do a custom registration just for Texas. We learned from that that is not a good idea. If you're going to buy an off-the-shelf system, you need to buy an off-the-shelf system and limit customization. Now, while we want to limit customization, we do want to take advantage of the opportunities where we can configure things. And I'll give you and sometimes those two things you think, well, isn't that the same thing? Well, no, it's a little bit different. The easiest way I can explain is all of your board areas use assessment tests, but you don't all use all of the same test. And so one of the things that we can configure and that we've worked with you guys on is to learn which assessment test you use in your particular workforce area. And so if you're signing on in Panhandle, you're going to get a drop-down with only those assessment tests listed that you use in Panhandle. If you're working in Gulf Coast, you're not going to get that Panhandle list. You're going to get the list from Gulf Coast. And so that's just, to me, a very simple explanation of what configuration is. Those places where we can make it specific for your board, we will do that. Now, early on in this project, we knew that if we had any hope of this being successful, we had to have board involvement. And we knew that we needed that from the beginning all the way through to the end. And so one of the things that we did was to reach out to the 28 EDs and ask for some representatives. We wanted to make sure that we had reps from across the state and that they represented small, medium, and large boards so that all perspectives were at the table as we were working on this system. And so we asked each of the quartiles, give us 2 board reps. And so we've got 8 folks that are with us involved in this, but we know that they each have their own day job. But folks like Linda have been with us day in and day out. We have invited them to requirements meetings and design meetings. We've made them part of the communications subcommittee. So you have representation on this project. And if you don't know who those board reps are, you can see us after. We can give you the names. Those are the folks that can help you make sure you have your wants and needs, at the table. Now, at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Sandy, and she's going to kind of talk about process. What are the steps we've been through? What have we done? Where are we? Where are we going? So, Sandy?
Can you guys see me over this thing? I feel like you're at a bank, and I feel like a little kid, Well, good morning, or good afternoon, everybody. I guess it's now morning. I say that to everybody, good morning. No matter it's 3 o'clock, I lose track of time. So the Workforce Case Management Project, as you guys know, is well underway. So it's a major IT project, which means it's fraught with major IT project delays and issues, right? So we deal with that, and you guys know that from the fact that we originally communicated that we were planning on going live in July of this year, and now it's gonna be January of 2024, right? So what we're trying to do is we are trying to make sure that when we go live, instead of you guys experiencing an earthquake, you just feel some tremors, along the way. We don't want this to be, one of those IT project go-lives where you guys are really struggling to figure it out, that you don't have the policy in place, you don't have the guidance, you don't have the training, you don't have the foundation necessary to be successful. So that extra time that we added to the project made sure that we can be a little bit more deliberate and thorough and make sure that you guys get a very well designed and tested product, if that makes sense. So we are well along the way in the project. We started out with our board reps like Linda, and I have to do a shout out to Eugene Ratliff from Rural Capital and Debbie Alford. They've just been side by side with us all along the way. And we started out, so the way an IT project goes is it goes through a very sequential, logical, progressive building up of moving from your legacy system to this new system. And you start out with a phase called requirements and fit gap. So what is fit gap? I've never heard of that before. Well, requirements have been established before the project was even awarded to a vendor, right? We said the system must do these things. We will not be successful if we do not accomplish these things. So the fit gap process gave us a designated amount of time to spend with our vendors and our subject matter experts to take a look at the way Twist operates today and compare it to the system that we're purchasing and to look for gaps. So that's the fit gap. How does this new product called VOS, which is our work in Texas, How does it come close to meeting our needs? Now, like Debbie said, we're not trying to do a Twist 2.0 where every single drop-down, every single feature that you see in Twist is going to be replicated in this new system, because this is a system that has already been adopted by more than 30 states. If they've managed to make this product work, then we should be able to make this product work, right? Or is Texas that different? Well, we do have differences. Texas is and always will be special and number one, right? So we do have regulations, legislatively driven, some very important measures that we measure that maybe other states aren't measuring that do cause us to need to make some changes to their out-of-the-box system. So we went through the fit gap, and we came out with, it sounds like a lot, but some of them are actually really small, like a single field change, 53 enhancement requests for the project. And so we've been working through with our board reps hand in hand, our subject matter experts, and designing out the best way to implement these sometimes small and sometimes pretty big changes that need to be made to the Work in Texas system so that we can continue to operate to the same standards that you guys are used to operating against. So we've finished that phase. That's well in our rearview mirror. And we are just wrapping up the last of our design changes that we're asking them to do in order to make sure that we've accommodated everything that you guys need to be successful. So since we're wrapping up the design, our vendor is already well along the way of starting the development of the system. We're starting to do some early testing of some of the functions that we've asked them to build and get it as mature as possible and find as many mistakes as possible before we move into the next big phase, which is user acceptance testing. User acceptance testing is meant to be our final look at the system before we go live. So it is going to be a relatively hefty lift. We're going to be starting July 10th, and we'll be ending right before Thanksgiving on the 17th of November, so that during that whole window, we will be doing pretty much end-to-end testing. You know, from something simple, if you think of if you're a trade person, you know, from the state receiving a trade petition, to creating the employers that are affected, to creating the layoff list, to then transitioning that list so that you across the state of Texas can then onboard those trade customers and get them applied and then work through that whole process to the point where you're getting ready to exit them and take a look at measures. So that whole testing phase takes a lot of people. And it's also split across 3 different lanes. So we're putting a lot of effort into converting the data that's in Twist into our new system. And that's no small thing. You're talking thousands and thousands of tables and fields that each one of them needs an independent decision. Every single field, we're looking at it. Do we really need that? Is there a landing spot for it over there? And if there's not, why not? We think we need this data, right? You know, what are we going to do if it doesn't have a place to go? And so we're working through the migration of data. There's 7 separate what we call mock runs, where we take a group of data like customer data, and then we go test how it migrates. And then snap data. Let's go see where it lands. Does everything show up the way it's going to go? So we're working through all of that. And we're also working through interface testing so that we can make sure that our communication with our partners isn't broken either. So our HHSC interfaces, send and receive, our communications with the UI system, TDCJ, childcare, you know, now that we're breaking childcare and other case management functions apart, because they both live together in Twist, we now have to make 2 systems communicate, right, and share that data. So we've got these 3 lanes, data conversion, interfaces, and functional, that are all coming together, and right around July, August timeframe, we are going to be moving into the user acceptance testing phase. And we already have a lot of volunteers for testers from from our boards. So it's awesome. We're hoping to integrate as much perspective into our testing as possible. Did I miss anything? We're good? All right. I probably talked too long. Any questions before I turn it over? There's one in the back. Sorry. And there will be a full Q&A at the end, guys.
Thank you, Sandy. I was wondering, how far back are we going to pull the data from TWIST to migrate over to WIT? Because we know that TWIST holds decades worth of programmatic data. Are we anticipate moving 1999 or 2020?
Excellent question. So one of the things that's going to be a little bit different than what you're used to is that the Work in Texas system is going to be under the rules of records retention, which basically means that if we've had no activity on a customer account, they haven't logged in, there's been no services provided, nothing, that those records get archived off, right? They get purged out of the system. So with that future thought in mind, it didn't make sense to pull all the data from 1999 and try to shove it into the system and have it take, like a week to load it all instead of a couple of days, right? So what we did do is, in order to make sure that we've got a full enough data set to accommodate our reporting the way it needs to be done, is we're going back with records back through 2016 forward. And if there's any data that needs to be pulled further back than that, because they've had an open case continuously since before then we will be pulling back as far as necessary so we don't lose any customer information as long as they've had continuous service. Does that help? And one more thing to add on that. I don't know how many of you guys were in the I call it I3 or I3 session about data, where we're going with data before lunch. But the one place where we're going to have everything going back really far is going to be in our data warehouse. So your ability to pull data from those Tableau reports that Adam Leonard and his team have been working on to make sure that you guys have really great insight into your numerators and denominators and performance and all that, is multi-source. Not only does it go back all the way as far as we have data, but it also pulls in data from childcare and UI and Work in Texas and TWIST as well. All right? All right, I'm gonna turn it over.
Thank you, Sandy. Thanks, Sandy. Next up is Linda. She has a PowerPoint that was presented at Quan, and she's going to go through that PowerPoint again. Thank you. Linda.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I think Sandy summed up the whole PowerPoint, so I'm just going to breeze through it. Not really. So there are going to be some things that are going to sound familiar to what Sandy already talked about, but I know a lot of you attended the Quan, so this will be the same thing pretty much. I didn't change anything. So just the background and the purpose, I know Sandy talked a lot about that earlier. What's the purpose? Is to replace the TWIST system that we've got in place. We've got GSI, that's the vendor. And so we've been working with them very closely. We've got to know them very well. And so they have done a wonderful job in helping us along the way and just being there if we had a question or if there was something that we didn't agree with. They listen to us, so that's important. And I think one of the main things that I do want to start off with is, we have the new Work in Texas system. I'm going to say that I am not familiar. I'm not 100%. I don't know how to use the system in WIT because when it changed over, I was in a different position, so I didn't have to use it as much. So, that was bad on me because really I didn't know this was coming. So right now we're encouraging everyone, get familiar with the navigation, get familiar with the Work in Texas. Also, keep an open mind when this new system rolls out because it is going to be a big change. There's going to be some terminology that's going to be changing. So like Sandy said, we're not going to have everything, and Debbie also said we're not going to have the same thing as TWIST. So there's going to be a lot of changes coming forward, but you need to understand that the case management is not changing as far as how we serve our customers. It's just how we do our work. So we want to make sure that if we understand how to do that data entry, then it'll be easier for us when we're helping our customers. And so just a little bit more background about the system that's coming. There's going to be a robust collection of interfaces, that will be exchanging data within Work in Texas and TWC and other agencies that we're bringing on board as well. Sandy talked about the data migration, how that's going to work, the reporting, both federal and non-federal. And also we did talk about the accessibility, how accessible it is, and also security. So that's something that's going to be coming later on. We're going to talk about that as well. I don't have that information, but once it comes out, everyone's going to be made aware of it, through the means that Debbie has in place right now. What's the status right now? Sandy gave a great presentation on that of where we are right now. We're very close to where we need to be. Just wrapping up the design phase, on the way to development and early sprint testing. And also talked about when the user acceptance testing is going to begin. And our go live again is going to be January 16th, 2024. 100% functionality will not go live in January. NCP staff will continue to use Twist. The apprenticeship module will not be incorporated at this time. Testing will cover several months, possibly May through October as well. Testing will be for functional, configuration, reports, and interface. Board testing is essential for functional testing. So we want to make sure that the individuals that have already signed up and volunteered, we're anxious to get that started. I know I am. The deployment would not be module by module, rather as one big implementation. So I know sometimes you think, oh, we're going to start here first, but no, this is all coming out at one time. So it is going to be a big change. Training, testing, and modules, like Debbie also said, is we have the out-of-the-box solution with minimal customization, but we can do configurations. So GSI did have to develop modules for Choices, SNAP, and NCP. So that's one of the things that we're working on right now, is finalizing those modules out and getting ready to see how those work. Many aspects of the system will be core system functionality with no changes and will require minimal testing. There will be areas that require significant testing, which will be mainly the Choices and SNAP modules, since they are being customized for Texas. And specifically right now, we are working on the outreach functionality, so that is a big part of how we outreach our customers for SNAP. I know that that's a big project, and Choices as well, but that also doesn't limit it to just those two programs. That's also available for the WIOA programs as well. There are also cross-functional changes that affect all programs that are still in design, and because of this, no program will be 100% ready until they are finalized. So, like I said, and we've all kind of repeated, and you'll hear that from now on, is, we're going to keep on testing, once we feel like, there's going to be changes, and we're not going to say it's going to be 100%, but this is just all testing, and we hope to have it up and running, the way we want it to by January. Board testing is projected to begin in July, and boards will be notified in advance to prepare. So I think Debbie has sent out some information to directors as well about the testing at least 6 weeks in advance. And it's important that testers selected should have an in-depth understanding of the program requirements. There's not a required number of testers per board, and TWC is aware that some may not have any available. Train the trainer sessions projected to begin in mid-September. Updates for the case management system are on the TWC website, and there is a link. It's very small on here on the PowerPoint, if you can see it, but there is a link that will take you to that resource when you need it. So September 2022, document stored. This is something that we got back in 2022, so like Sandy said, we've done a lot of things since then, so this may not all be current as of today. We do have the document storage capability, there's workflow capability, non-formula funding, grant tracking. We had offices in Twist, that's going to be changing a little bit in the new system. Permissions and roles, optional questions, the DENT process request, that's also going to be changing as well. And I know that we just had implementation for the Universal Employment Plan, so that is also something that's different as well, that we've already started a little bit of, but we're not, in the full phase of it. Is there any questions? I know you'll have a lot of questions, so I will hand it back to Debbie now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Am I good here? Okay, I know that wasn't for me, that was for Linda, but, at this point, we're just gonna kind of go, back and forth, and we're gonna go through all of the questions that came up at Quan. We know some of you were in the virtual room, some of you were not, but we wanna catch everybody up. But again, when we get to the end of this session today, we'll open this up for questions and answers. And I've already warned you, we probably will not have all of the answers today, but we'll get them and we will get them back to you. And our intention is the link that Linda showed, which takes you to, in simple terms, the WD letter page. Everybody knows how to get to WD letters? That's the page. There's a drop down where you can pick WD letters, technical assistance bulletins, or there's one that says staff resources. If you make that selection, it will take you to documents about the workforce case management system. Once we have all of the questions at the end of this session today, and we can go back and gather all of those answers, we'll combine that information with the ones from Quan, have that entire list of questions and answers, and we'll post it to that page. And so that's the page. You need to go back and tell all of your coworkers, that's where you can find information about workforce case management. Now, with that, we're just going to jump in. The very first question, though, on the list is one that Elisa already asked, and it's about, what information is coming over from TWIST to the new system. Sandy already explained, we're looking at the date of July 1st, 2016, things connected with that in open periods of participation. That makes sense? We are not, okay, and let me be clear, in case we haven't been clear about this. We are not going to have a case management system where we retain information for 25 years anymore. We're not doing that. Just no. Now, there was also a question whether TWIST would remain accessible for auditing or prior case history once we shift over to the new system. Now, I think we've already mentioned that not everything will go live on January the 16th of 2024. The non-custodial parent program is going to have to still function in TWIST. And so TWIST is going to have to stay up for some period of time. So it will still be there for a period. Sandy mentioned the enterprise data warehouse. Decisions are being made about who will have access to that, how those things will work. I don't want to get in Adam's business, so I'm just going to leave that right there. Sandy.
Is this on? It is. All right, the next question is what's the expected release date of the new system? So we already talked about that. It's going to be January 16th of 2024. At this point, we really are not seeing anything that's going to delay that. It would have to be a pretty catastrophic failure on the project, which we're not anticipating because we are now so far along in the project phases and we're getting closer to UAT. So we're feeling more and more comfortable about that January 2024 date. And Debbie already mentioned a couple of the items that we've decided to not have ready at go live on purpose. One of those was NCP. The other one is apprenticeship. We wanted to simplify our go live, and apprenticeship is working just great in its own standalone system. So we'll be migrating that once we get system stability after go live. And then a couple of other functions like login, security for job seekers and employers, and records retention.
Okay, one of the other questions, was, is TWC working on any kind of a timeline to update policies and procedures and such? And I can't say that there is a timeline, but the staff and policy are looking at those policy directives that are out there that are going to be dated because they reference twist. And so they are already planning for how to get those things updated. But, you know, nothing we do is simple. I mean, do any of you ever have a day where you go to work and everything was just a breeze? It was just simple. It was exactly like you planned. Anybody? Yeah, I didn't think so. No different at the state office. Even the best planning that policy can do, you know, the legislature is still in town. And so things that they do, bills that get passed and have to be implemented, some of those things will have to be prioritized. And unfortunately, that means that some of those updates to policy guidance may go on the back burner. They just move down that priority list a little. But we will get to those things and update them as quickly as we can.
The next question was, will there be a phone app for customer access? And the answer to that is no, there will not be a phone app for case management functions. Case management is not intended to be an employer or job seeker facing, and so it is designed to staff, and there is an existing job seeker customer mobile app for WIT, but it's not currently the focus for case management.
All right, the next question is, will customers be able to upload documents into the workforce case management system? And then, for example, will they be able to upload a driver's license or a birth certificate or pay stubs? So generally speaking, the case management system is a staff-facing system. However, unlike Twist, there is the capability to have customers, should you choose to go down that route, have a login to their account and upload documents. So that's actually one of the benefits of this system. There is a little bit of restriction on the types of documents that can be uploaded currently in order to keep it secure. You can upload image documents like JPEGs, PNG files, those types of things if you take a picture of a document, or you can upload a PDF document. But things like Excel spreadsheets and Microsoft Word documents and stuff like that are currently not able to be uploaded.
Okay, will all case documents be managed in this system? Are we required to use the file tracking, or can we use our own, such as Cabinet? We would love for everybody, for all boards, to use this system for your document storage. However, we're not oblivious to the fact that many of you have lease agreements, that you have other systems that you use for your document storage. And so we don't expect you to just abandon contracts in the middle of the period. However, when a contract is coming up for expiration, we would really encourage you to seriously look at, don't spend your money on doing that contract again. Use this system. And I will tell you that one of the big advantages, there are more than one, but one advantage of having your document storage in the new case management system. Right now, you know that when monitoring is going to come out and monitor your workforce area, they're giving you a list of customers, and you're having to upload all of those documents that they need into a place where they can get it. If you have your document storage in the case management system, they will go in and pull those documents. And so all of that effort that you're having to do right now to upload those documents for monitoring, you don't have to do that. So that's my sales pitch. If you can use this system for document storage, please do it. There was a question that asked, is TWC working on a system that will help us become paperless? TWC is working on a lot of system upgrades right now. You know, Sandy mentioned childcare. We've got this one going on. Lots of system work going on, but I do not believe that at this moment in time there is any investigation in how do we become a paperless system? Maybe once we put some of these other big automation projects to bed, maybe we can take a look at that. But today, no.
All right. The next question is, will we be able to view quarterly wages in the new case management system for participants like we can with the twist wage detail? Yes. So the case management system will have the capabilities to do both view UI wages that come in from UI through a system interface that we are working on now, as well as the ability to review the supplemental wage records that are entered by staff across the state of Texas. So they'll be in two separate places, so we would really encourage that you look to make sure that we don't have a UI wage record before adding supplemental wage. But we did do something with our vendor to make it easier to deduplicate in case both types of wages are recorded, and that is making sure that they add in some additional details about the employer so we can match up to see if a wage record is for the same employer for the same period so that we can be a little bit more accurate in understanding whether or not it's a duplicate wage record. One more thing about that, there are permissions related to viewing wages, so we're working on the roles and permissions model now, and we've worked with some board representatives to help make sure that we've accommodated all of the different roles, basic roles that are necessary. So, if for some reason you can't see wages, then you can work with your leadership and make sure that you are in the right role or that that permission is turned on for you. Next one's mine too. All right. Will there be a common intake form that will be utilized for federal and non-federal programs? So common intake is one of those word shifts that you guys are going to have to get used to. So in Twist, common intake really is a gathering of information for a customer that is common across all programs, right? Maybe some demographic information, some address and zip codes, and the things that you're keeping up to date about your customer all the time. Common intake in the Voss system is a little different. Common intake is the ability to enroll a customer in multiple programs all at once with one wizard asking duplicate questions only one time. So I'm assuming that this question came from a perspective of the Twist version of common intake, which is making sure that we have one place to store the updated information about your customers. So that definitely, there's a place for that in Work in Texas in Voss. Voss is virtual one-stop, for those of you who don't know. If I say Voss, that is the software behind Work in Texas. So it's considered the individual profile, and it's pretty much, right in line with the Twist common intake area. And then there also is the common intake, like I said, which allows you to enroll a customer in WIOA, Wagner Pizer, SNAP, all at once, all at the same time, something like that. Next one's mine. Will this system have any communication with the new child care management system? So as I mentioned during my long-winded discussion about the schedule and the project, that a system that has been very closely entwined in Twist with childcare kind of being just intrinsic with all the rest of the case management is now being split out into two very different and divergent systems. So we've worked to identify some of the overlapping data that they shared and where we may need to now create interfaces between the workforce case management side of the house and the child care case management side of the house. So we've gotten it down to really just a very simple exchange of information. We are going to be able to trigger referrals to the child care system using some services. Just enter a service for a referral and updates to the referral in the case management system, and boom, it just goes right on over, and it notifies the child care case management system what's happening. And then the child care system will be sending back some of the information necessary for the ACF 199 report, the child care, what some of our federal reporting needs. All right.
How will customers be identified? Will the Twist ID carry over? So the Twist ID will carry over into the new system. It will not be available on the screen, however. It will be available for querying purposes through the ad hoc query tools. However, we will be providing a cross-reference, at least that's our discussion right now, a cross-reference list at Go Live that may be helpful to find customers and their former Twist ID. Sandy, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, for those of you who've work in Texas for the Wagner-Peiser program, you guys are probably pretty familiar with the interface to search for and find customers. While I probably wouldn't describe work in Texas as being super user-friendly, because very complex systems have a tendency to swing away from user-friendliness and more towards complexity, what it is very robust, right? So just in the main search screen in the very top, there are so many ways to find a customer in the system. I mean, you can do it by, date of birth and gender and you name it. Are they a SNAP participant? Have they had a service of like workforce orientation service? There's so many different ways you can look for and find customers that I don't think you guys will have too much of a problem being able to find the customers that you're used to serving.
The next question, how is TWC planning to clean up duplicate accounts in Twist? Will there be a report to identify duplicate accounts prior to migration? This is a project that we are working on even as we speak as part of our data cleanup efforts, and that how to identify duplicate accounts and to see if there's a way to handle these in an automated fashion. It is more likely that we may be able to merge some of those duplicate accounts in an automated way. It also looks like we may have to provide you all with a list of accounts to review and resolve prior to our migration effort. With the new system, when a customer comes in, staff may be able to search using SSN. If the individual is already enrolled, then they should pull up on the screen. If not, then they would probably not be enrolled. As Sandy just mentioned, there are multiple ways to search in the system, and I know in the WIT system we ask that before entering a new customer, a search is done to see if they're already in the system, since we don't necessarily require SSNs for the labor exchange side of work in Texas.
I'm going to tack on a little bit more onto that answer. So one of the very difficult things about doing a major system replacement is making sure that you, number one, don't lose any data as you're converting data over into this new system. And the other thing, if you guys have ever thought about it, is you would never want to accidentally merge an account from Twist into a work in Texas account that wasn't the same person. So if we have to err in any direction, it's going to be on the side of duplication versus non-duplication. And there's tools, we're hoping to eliminate as much as possible and find that nice sweet spot in between accidentally merging two people's data into one account that you've then got to pull apart again, and accidentally ending up with two separate accounts that you can then identify and merge together once you've verified, using your own robust methods of verification versus some system making a decision. So we are doing everything we can to find that happy medium and reduce duplication. And there is the ability in Work in Texas, it's a section called Identity Issues, that lets you go and it tells you if it thinks it might have found 2 or 3 accounts for the same person and lets you review them. It doesn't even make you find them. It helps you to find them, if that's helpful. Okay, can contractor staff be part of testing the project? We highly encourage that you guys, anybody who has the time and has the expertise and wants to be a part of our user acceptance testing, that you guys offer them up. What we're doing to make sure that we have a system that's accessible for you guys to get to test is we have an environment that's dedicated to external stakeholder testing that's not behind a TWC VPN, so that we can bring in anyone we want to help assist with that testing. Should I talk about the timeline for that? I didn't really go into that. Okay, so there's two different opportunities for stakeholder testing, and it really depends on your maybe your endurance factor. How's that? So we're going to be doing user acceptance testing from July 10th through November 17th. So it's a really big window, around 4 months or so. But we're also going to be having a very concentrated 2 to 3 week period that is dedicated for external stakeholder testing. So if you guys would prefer to just participate in that really focused 2-week effort, which will be happening in October, that's perfectly fine. But if you have people that want to maybe do a little testing all along the way during UAT, we welcome that as well. All right.
Trying to figure out how I'm going to say this delicately. We have a lot of questions and less time to answer those questions, because we'd also like to have an opportunity for you to give us some additional questions. So we'll try to get through this. We're going to go with the Reader's Digest version of these. So they're going to be quick and to the point, and we'll see if we can get through all of this, okay? And still have some time to take some of your questions.
Okay, but remember, even though Richard said that we're going to give you the Reader's Digest version, the full answer with fully embellished will be posted on our resource page when we get all of the questions together. So we're not going to shortchange you. We just want to give you a chance to ask questions today.
And I sure hope everyone knows when I say Reader's Digest version what I'm talking about. Right? Those of us who are old enough to remember the abridged version of stories, right? Okay. Will there be a function to prevent customers from being able to enter multiple WIT accounts? Highly unlikely. There's just so many ways that customers can get into this system. Errors during data entry that make it impossible to match that person with their own record from a previous data entry. They've forgotten that they've entered a record. So preventing the addition or the duplication of records is going to be difficult. As Sandy alluded to, there are other mechanisms to be able to check to see if that record already exists. But again, if we're talking the customer entering the record, it's a little bit more difficult. Now, I know this is in discussion with case management, and we're talking more staff side. My mindset is basically on the WIT side, and so, or the labor exchange. And so, again, when a customer enters, a job seeker enters, there's no way that the system can duplicate that if they've forgotten they've already entered a record.
All right, Reader's Digest version. He was talking to me. All right, so will the new case management system have a flag or an alert on the case if at some point it was identified that the customer committed fraud or abuse of support service assistance? No, there isn't a flag like that per se that is available. We do think it'd be a really great system enhancement, and we've taken note of the question. The next question is, how flexible will the case management system be? Can we adjust tabs to identify sections, folders, and organize these in different ways? There is one screen that you own, and that is the main staff dashboard. You can configure the widgets, you can move them around. You can't create your own widgets, but there's a library of widgets you can do. The rest of the system is very standardized, so you won't have the ability so much to do that. But there are a few kind of, what do you call them? I can't think of the right word, but things like you can pin a customer or you can pin pages so that you can get to them pretty quickly and pretty easily. So there's a few efficiency things that are in there that we'll hit on in training to help you guys out.
Currently, WIT liaisons have the ability to merge WIT accounts Bottleneck is Twist. The reason for the bottleneck is the merge functionality, is the admin level functionality. Will we be having to submit ServiceNow tickets to TWC for Twist liaisons to do merges? It is our intention that we give the permissions for the liaisons, either, and I'm going to say liaisons right now, we haven't decided if we're going to have two types of liaisons, WIT liaisons and case management liaisons, or just one liaison role. But regardless, they will have the ability to do merges.
All right, the next question is, are counselor notes getting locked after 10 days in the new case management system? No, they are not locked. There are, however, a lot of privileges and permissions related to case notes. You can have non-suppressed case notes. You can have your permissions restricted that you can only see case notes within your board, or they could be set wide open so that you can see case notes entered from any board. So it really depends on the role that you're provided and the permissions that are granted to you by the person who is setting up your account. Next question, Debbie, you or me?
Yeah, the next question concerns storing medical and confidential information in the system, and we really do not encourage that. There will be policy guidance coming out giving you more specific information, but really we think it needs to be a better course of action would be to make case notes rather than store a doctor's note. Put something in case notes. I reviewed the doctor's note, and this customer is able to work 20 hours a week, and you don't need to get into the specifics of what the medical condition is, something like that. But there'll be policy coming out on, the actual recommendation on that.
So we have about 15 minutes left, and we have probably 15 to 18 questions left. And as I said just a few minutes ago, we wanted to leave time for you all to ask questions. And if we don't have answers, regardless, we'll make sure we record the answers. If we don't have answers, as Debbie alluded to earlier, we will get back those answers to you. But if no one speaks up, we're going to continue. So I'm going to leave it in your hands to determine how this is going to go. So at this juncture, we'll ask Valerie to walk around for anybody who has their hand raised so that we can do a Q&A.
In regards to speed of the system, I know that the Twist system was a little cumbersome and slow.
Stand up, please.
I'm sorry. In
Thank
regards
you.
to the speed of the new system, will it be better than the Twist system? Will it need constant updates like the Twist system? Will we still have those issues combining these two, using the existing working Texas system and doing the migration of all of this? How will the speed be as far as processing?
Well, I'm not a Twist user, so I can't comparatively really state, but I can say this. The production system is scaled very large. The servers are very robust. And we are doing dedicated performance testing with our vendor to make sure that the system meets our threshold requirements. If there's any area of the system that may be a little bit longer, it might be pulling some of the more detailed reports, but otherwise we expect it to perform very well.
And we will be able to run all the same reports that we ran in Twist?
So unfortunately, Twist was what we call an aggregator of data. So your Twist workforce reports had childcare data, we had some UI data pushed in there, we had WIT data pushed in there. So we've had to kind of divide and conquer in reports. Since Work in Texas will have case management, workforce case management, SNAP, TANF, trade, all that. But childcare is elsewhere. We have to divide that up. So the child care system will have the dedicated child care reports. The workforce case management system will have the reports related to TANF, SNAP, trade, WIOO, Wagner, Pizer, et cetera. And where you need an integrated report, Hopefully, a lot of that will be handled by the Enterprise Data Warehouse and your access to Tableau. We will also have ad hoc reporting capabilities available.
Hello. I have a question. I know you mentioned that there's going to be a section to upload documents, but for the section of the performance outcomes on MSG, will there be a section to upload like certificates, diplomas, by any chance?
Absolutely. You can upload any type of documentation that's appropriate to manage your case. The only thing is it needs to be scanned into a PDF format or an image format, like you take a picture on your phone or something and it's a JPEG or whatever. But yes, and customers can upload, staff can upload. Either way, there's ways to get it into the system.
Hi, good afternoon. I was just wondering if there would be more guidance provided on the client load exception list and how boards can go about to clearing that out. I know right now we just have whatever is on the twist help menu, and I know for several boards, that's one of the challenges was clearing out some of those duplicate accounts. And the second part of that question is whether TWC has considered giving merge access in twist to boards to kind of speed up that process rather than having to wait on ServiceNow tickets.
So for the answer to the merge question is yes, we intend to give the merge functionality to the board level for case management as well as the labor exchange as it currently stands today. Was your other question in regards to the client load exception report? I thought I heard CLE. Okay.
Yes, that's it.
But some of the other reasons, like the number 2s and 3s, they do become a little bit more complex. And I know that we do have staff that may not be as, thoroughly trained with how to go about, determining whether it's a separation or a merge. So in the past, the guidance was just like, well, here's the chapter on, what's available in the twist help guide. But I was just wondering, since we will need to clear all of those out at some point, if there was going to be like additional training or any other sort of guidance available on how to go about and clearing some of those.
I don't know that I have the perfect answer to really address everything you asked, so we will do what we can to get you a better answer after this workshop. But I can tell you that we are currently in the process of working with our vendor to implement a similar feature as customer load exceptions. So for the inbound HHSC data and resolving those records, right? What we are trying to do, though, is simplify that logic so fewer records end up causing an error that have to be resolved before you can outreach your customers.
Ms. Carlson was speaking earlier regarding the document storage, but what about the financial systems? Are we going to suggest that all boards use the financial systems that are built into WIT case management, or are they going to be able to still continue to use the ones that they have a pre-selected vendor for?
At this point, we are not going to mandate that the financial system in case management be used. However, there is a module in there on, financial. And so while we won't mandate it, we do encourage everybody to look at that because that may be something that we want to shift to in the future. So we encourage you to look at it, investigate it, see if that would meet your needs.
Thank you. Also, when we were talking about Work in Texas reports and the migration of it, when we look at the shared reports in Work in Texas, is there any idea of maybe deleting or providing some type of time frame on those reports?
Lisa, I don't know if I understand
Okay.
that question. Can we talk
Yes.
later and get
Yes.
that?
We definitely can. And also, since I have the mic, Ms. Hernandez suggested if you wanted to use WIT, training and development is still currently training in Work in Texas as well as Work in Texas reports. Thank you.
Shameless plug.
Sales
Okay.
pitch.
Other questions? We do want to get to
We got
T&D as well, so.
Lewis, and then
Yeah, hi, I just wanted to ask about the document management system as well. You had mentioned cabinet. And I know there were some tags and things that you could add to the various documents, but will there be folders or ways to kind of separate the documents, or what will it look like in the system? Will it just be one page where you can see all of your documents, or will it kind of be tabbed out?
Well, I think we'll have to take that one and get back to you, because I haven't looked, and I don't think any of us have really looked at
I do
the
think
document structure.
I do think it's got folders that there are ways that you can structure it, but I can't remember specifics.
Some of you in the audience may actually use Work in Texas a lot and have a better answer for that. But I can tell you this, that you can tag your documents and search for them by tags. So if you use your tagging really well, like you associate it with a program, SNAP or whatever, you can filter down and find things.
Okay, you talk about the July 10th to November 17th, that's a users acceptance training phase. Is that train the trainer type is different?
That was,
It was
Yeah, I tell you
testing.
what, Let's let Lewis ask his question, and we're almost out of time. I want to wrap up with the train the trainer.
Thank you very much. Quick question. I know Tableau is going to have some ad hoc reporting capabilities. Is that to mean we will no longer need to use our other system?
Infomaker?
Infomaker? Will we no longer need that?
Correct.
Wonderful. And then that's a yay. And then the follow-up to that is, which may lead right into your closing, will T&D be doing Tableau training for the creation of ad hoc reports?
Will T&D be doing Tableau training? I can't answer that question.
Gotcha.
We will take that back to them, but, okay. Very quickly, I know that some of you are interested in Train the Trainer. Now, this is different than the user acceptance testing that Sandy has talked about. This is our tentative schedule because, in our world, everything is subject to change. But as we've said, training will start the middle of September and it will go through early December. Now, this is set up to have 5 sessions. The first 4 sessions, each board will have one designated trainee for that session. So all 28 boards will have a place at the table virtually for the first session, the second, the third, and the fourth. Now, having said that, let me explain. If your board had a training room the size of this room, then maybe Lewis is the designated trainee for that session. But you could fill this room with as many people as you had chairs for that could sit through that training with Lewis. But because there will be 28 designated trainees, we would ask that each board have their one designated trainee be the only person that asks questions of the trainers. We need to try to maintain some semblance of order. So if you're all in the room, you can pass notes to each other, you can whisper to each other, but we would request that only that one designated person be the one that actually interacts with the trainers. But you can fill a room with as many people as you can get in there. And then session 5 would be a makeup session. If you couldn't come to one of the others, you could go to that. Now, You may have noticed that each session is 10 days long. 10, T-E-N, 10 days long. And we're talking full days. Day one will be a cross-program session that everybody will need this, because this is foundational for the rest of the training. So everybody needs to go to day one. Day 2 and 3 of the training will be on WIOA. If you're a trainer or you're a staff member and you never deal with WIOA, you probably don't need to go to days 2 and 3. There will be 2 days on SNAP, 2 on TANF choices, 2 on trade, and the final day 10 will be on workforce reports. That may be another day that almost everybody wants to be in the training. Now, that was really quick. Have I gotten you all confused about Train the Trainer? Is it virtual? It is virtual. And so because it's virtual, that's why I'm saying while you only have one designated trainee for each session, you can have lots of people in the room that are getting the training at the same time. Any other questions?
Your asterisk on number 5, do you have to miss one in order to have that extra seat? Or can you have an extra seat on 5?
That's a really good question that I don't have an answer to. Yeah, I don't know. One in the middle.
Hi, did you say we can only have one representative from each board for each session or for all sessions?
You get one designated person for each one of the 4 sessions. But like if this, sorry, need to sit on my hands. If this is session 1, day 1, Lewis is our designated trainee, but all of the rest of you can be in here, but instead of you all asking questions of the virtual trainer, you would feed all of those questions to Lewis and he would ask them. Does that?
I got that, but I was wondering, like, because each day is like different topics, can we have different people on it?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, you could have Lewis as your designated person on day 1, and you could have a different person designated on day 2. Sorry.
Is it day 2 or is it session 2? Different person per session. To be clear, each board gets 4 trainers. Session 1, 1 trainer. Session 2, a different trainer. Session 3, yet a 3rd trainer. Session 4, a 4th trainer. To the question about session 5, we'll have to get back to you on that one. 4 trainers per board, okay? But as Debbie's said a couple of times, during those sessions, multiple people in the same room, but that designated trainer for that session is the only one asking questions. Okay? Is that clear as mud now? Okay.
Okay, we got time for one question.
Did Lewis ask? Oh, he didn't.
No more?
If we had on a slide our email addresses, if you have questions, do not hesitate to email those questions. We'll roll them into our responses for this forum session. And as Debbie said, we'll get that information posted so you all have those answers. All right? Thank you all for your attendance.
I was just going to say, if you don't want to wait and email it, if you want to write it down, put your name and your email on there so that if we have any questions, we'll know. But you can write it down and give it to us, and we will take it today. Otherwise, email us. And thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.